know what Alexander Pavlovic, Keto Nakamura, Virgil van Dijk and Victor Gyökeres all have in common? They're all defensively the reason their team got eliminated from the World Cup. Whether it was leaving far too much space for the best player in the world or just flinching away from an aerial duel, myself, Sean from 48 Hours Football, is here to convict each and every one of them on my show, What's He Doing? And we start with the first of the round of 32 games, which was South Africa versus Canada. And at fault for the only goal in this game was Yaya Sithole. And it is heartbreaking to watch a nation that have such good vibes go out to a last minute goal. Yaya sits too deep in the box and Esther Keogh has space and time to rifle Canada into the next round. Yaya is of course sentenced to having an H inserted into his surname as the second letter. And that was Canada through to the round of 16, and now we move into Brazil versus Japan. Japan would take the lead in this game though, and at fault for the first goal in this game was Danilo. And to be honest, the experience he has means that he's got no excuse to be playing this pass. It's just the wrong pass. He had to go long, but Danilo lays it slowly to the ref, I think. Japan intercept, and after one pass to Seno and one pass to the goal, Brazil were in trouble. And Danilo is sentenced to being a 1980s defender, and he can only clear the ball when he touches it. But after they scored, Japan would sit 11 men behind the ball, and Brazil, that's what they do, they unlock those, and at fault for Brazil's first goal was Keto Nakamura. For those of you that haven't watched the Premier League, Casemiro has scored this exact goal 8 to 9 times over the past 2 years. That's why I call it the Casemiro back post eventuality. And Nakamura has fallen for the same trap many have, and just not marked him at all. And Nakamura is sentenced to being horribly booked by the WWE for a decade. After Brazil equalised, Japan would try and attack again, and eventually that unravelled their whole plan. Brazil got the winner, and at fault for it was Ao Tanaka. The Brazil pressure finally pays off as Tanaka is suffocated on the edge of his own box. He plays a weak pass and Rayan sends it in, and eventually the last minute man himself, Martinelli, can put Brazil through to the round of 16. And Tanaka is sentenced to yet again for another season being benched behind Ampadu. And with Brazil through, we now move into the hate watch of the century, which was Germany versus Paraguay. And at fault for the first goal in this game was Alexander Pavlovic. Single-handedly, this guy eliminated Germany with just how bad his performance was. Pavlovic struggled to control the midfield for the whole game, but never has a 6 been an up man from a corner before. For exactly why the centre mid is not in the centre of the pitch to mark the completely open Enciso. I mean, Pavlovic is literally doing nothing while there is a wide open Paraguayan about to eliminate Germany. I can't stand him and I'm a biased judge, so Pavlovic is sentenced to life behind bars. But Germany delayed the what would be inevitable by scoring, and at fault for that goal was Jose Canale, probably the most involved centre-back in the entire World Cup so far. He was blocking everything, but his luck ran out as Havertz got open and equalised. Canale was just 2 steps too far back, which gives the German number 7 space to score, and Canale is sentenced to getting battered by France. Someone needs to tell me what the highest scoring knockout round in World Cup football is, because France are about to beat that. But as you've all seen, Paraguay would advance on penalties, which means we can move into our next game, which was also decided on penalties, Netherlands versus Morocco. At fault for the first goal in this game was Achraf Hakimi. What a brilliant moment for Cody Gakpo. For the tragedy he's been through, he literally sprints the majority of the pitch and scores. I feel like Hakimi could have kept up with him, but he's jogging back rather than sprinting, and there will be no sentence for this goal. Excellent moment for Cody Gakpo. But in the 91st minute, Morocco would pull it back through the fault of Virgil van Dijk. Now, I've been breaking down Premier League defences for years, and I know Van Dijk's lost a little bit of his defensive insurance with the ball at feet, but I've never once seen him flinch at a header. The ball comes in, Diop jumps behind Van Dijk, and Van Dijk doesn't jump. And in a moment where all Virgil van Dijk had to do was contest an aerial ball, he stays rooted to the ground, Diop scores, Morocco win on pens, and Van Dijk is sentenced to being 5'1" for getting out jumped. And with Morocco through, we now move into our final of the close games of the round of 32 so far, which was the Ivory Coast versus Norway. And at fault for the first goal in this game was Nicolas Pepe. This is a goal good enough to qualify for any round of this tournament. Nusa puts on his dancing shoes, sends Nicolas Pepe to every direction on a compass, before curling a belter past Fofana. And Nicolas Pepe is sentenced to only being able to move north, east, south or west. He's got no more dynamic movement. Ivory Coast would equalise through the fault of Sander Berg. And this is the exact reason you start Amad Diallo. I still stand by the fact that if Ivory Coast had started Amad Diallo, they win the game. He's the best player on the team, and he's on the bench. He puts Berg on skates with his intricate dribbling, and levels the game. Berg is sentenced to slipping over once a day for the rest of his life. But late on, Norway would retake the lead through the fault of Odilon Kasunu. It would seem luck favours the Vikings. Bob splits the defence with a great ball, and 3 Ivory Coast defenders commit to it, and none of them get goal side. Kasunu just had to stay with Haaland like he had been for the rest of the game, but the ball just hits a wide open Erling Haaland and trickles its way in. Kasunu is sentenced to having to stay within a 1 metre radius of Ibrahim Sangare for the next 3 years. Because if you want to be that close to him, you can't leave him now. And after Norway are through and set up a massive game against Brazil, we can move into the first whitewash of the round of 16, which was France versus Sweden. And at fault for the first goal in this game was Victor Gyökeres. And if you didn't understand the phrase "there's levels to this," you should now, because Gyökeres has simply been cooked by Mbappe's footwork. France have the freedom to do whatever they want from set pieces, and this one they play short and attack the near post. Mbappe hits a KSI flip-flap and Gyökeres is bewildered as the best player in the world makes it 1-0. Gyökeres is sentenced to falling for every trick that is played on him for the rest of his life. France would make it 2-0 through the fault of Gustav Lagerbielke. It's not his best showing, that's for certain. I've never before in my life seen a bloke get in this position. He's on all fours, knees together, but feet as far as possible from each other. Dude looks like a fucking sea lion, and as you would probably guess, he is sentenced to having to fight an elephant seal. But at fault for France's third and final goal in this game was Daniel Svensson. Svensson is completely switched off to the fact that Mbappe is behind him like an angry wasp. He's just running circles around him trying to get played in. And if the higher ups at Real Madrid aren't watching Elise and Mbappe connect and thinking that those two could just single-handedly win you every tournament you enter, then they've lost their minds. It's unreal the gaps they find each other through. But for Svensson, he is sentenced to waking up underwater every day. And with France now through, we're moving to our final game of this video, which was Mexico versus Ecuador. And unlike the actual game, I won't delay me telling you what's going to happen because there's a little bit of rain outside. To put it simply, another absolute hammering. Mexico were in control from the start, never looked out of it. Ecuador looked out on their feet, and it really showed during the first goal, and at fault for it was Alan Franco. How can you flip from intensely marking a guy to not caring that he's completely open in behind you? Quinones beats the high line and abandons the Ecuador defence before making it 1-0. Franco is sentenced to being stuck between decisions for 4 hours before he makes a single one. And at fault for the final goal in this video was Joel Ordonez. This one is the most unfortunate one out of the video, but Joel hits a triple. First by scuffing his clearance, then he slips, and finally he never rejoins the defensive line and leaves Jimenez a huge gap to make it 2-0. Ordonez is sentenced to great sympathy for what just happened because the smile on Raul Jimenez's face was worth every penny. Thank you for watching this video. If you made it this far, you clearly love what's going on, so please remember to subscribe. Check the link in our bio to join the best Telegram for sporting tips. And as always, if you like the video, peace.